Hello and welcome back to yet another session at Lalans IAS. I am Hiroin Soikya, and so let's begin. So today we have chosen a topic which is very much in news, which has created quite a bit of tremor in the political circles. But for us, without going into the politics of things, we need to have a clear academic understanding of the topic so that we can tackle any direct or indirect question related to it, because it is very much part of the core area of polity that we study. In fact, this topic, as you can see on your screen, India or Bharat. So this is something that has been clearly defined in Article 1 of the Constitution of India. So that is how we have tried to uh, deliver this lecture to you. We have actually segregated all the aspects related to this topic, and so let us begin. So here we start from the idea what the Constitution says about this topic. What the Constitution says, that is the first area where we will explore. Okay, then we will go into the origins of the terms Bharat and India. Okay, and we will go into the origins of the term Bharat and India. Then we will look into the concept of nation state. What is nation state? What is a nation? Why? What is a state? Why two terms? Why are we using two terms to essentially mean the same thing? The same. There is only one um, territory we are talking about, or one culture we are talking about. Then why should we use two terms? All those things we will explain. Then later we will analyze what is our culture, specifically how we define, what is the best way to define our culture. Then we often hear terms like Hindustan, uh, and we are aware of salutations like Jai Hind. Jai Hind is a salutation used by the defense personnel, the police personnel, while saluting their superior, or their whenever they are saluting anybody, they use the term Jai Hind. So Hind is something which has been associated with India since ancient times. So will it be apt to use that term? Because India and Bharat are not the only terms. There are, in fact, multiple terms associated with the this area of the world. Then we will delve into the aspect why our freedom movement became the basis of the national, or why the freedom movement is known as the national movement, or is it right to call the freedom movement as a national movement? So when you call it a national movement, it means that you are identifying that area as a nation. So what is the basis? Then again, the result, or you can say the unfortunate consequence of the struggle for independence, was also the creation of the nation called Pakistan. So again, we will juxtapose Pakistan along with India and see, is the basis for making Pakistan the correct basis, or is it legally speaking from modern law? Can Pakistan be called a nation when it was formed? Or sometimes we see in news that Pakistan is considered as an unnatural nation. So all those aspects we will analyze. So let's get started. So first of all, we will have to look into the constitutional aspect of the issue. So Article 1, Part 1 of the Constitution has Article 1, and Article 1 clearly defines the name and territory of the Union. So what does it say? That India, that is Bharat. Actually, it should clear everything. It should be beyond doubt. what the Constitution says. Constitution says that the term India and the term Bharat is not the same thing, the same entity we are talking about. When we are referring to India, India, it means Bharat. So Article 1, Clause 1 of Article 1 clearly says that India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. So this, the name of the country has been clearly defined in Article 1. So let us see why the controversy, or what other aspects, or what is the basis of recognizing India, or what is the basis of saying that we have a term called India, and what is the basis of the term called Bharat. So when we speak about India, when we talk about India, what does India means? What does India mean? India, when we say India, India is basically a geographical connotation. India is a geographical connotation. Okay, it means originated from the idea, or you can say when 4th century BC, there was this famous Greek scholar called Megasthenes. I hope you have heard about his name. So his work Indica or Indicate, in this was lost originally, but later it was reproduced in multiple forms, or like in a different form. Original edition was lost, but this was somehow uh, brought back through later interpretation of later scholars. So Latins, it was again reproduced in Latins, so Latin language. So what it gave the idea of India was something merely related to geography. It referred to the fact that the whole territory beyond the river Indus will be known as India. So that is what Megasthenes, or for that matter, the idea of India actually refers to. Okay, so then what is the idea of Bharat? What is the idea of Bharat? Bharat actually is a cultural cultural connotation. What we mean by culture, we will delve into those aspects. But for this moment, the best way to explain culture is how you live, the way of your life, the way of your lifestyle, how you eat, how you live, how you talk, what you wear. All these aspects are part of your culture. Or simply saying that your day-to-day activities, the principles that govern your day-to-day activities are basically culture. And culture is not a static thing. Right now, what we are seeing in India is a culture that is nearly 200, 300 years old. Like, of course, it is a long traditional culture that has been there in India, but all aspects are not followed. For the simple matter, we see people wearing clothes like jeans, uh, kurta pajama. All those things are not very old. They have actually come from the invaders who came to India, and right now many food habits, they are also actually not part of the original, you can say, it will be difficult to say it as a culture, but the original traditional way was different. So what it actually means is that culture is not a static thing. It keeps on changing with time. Good things come in, bad things sometimes with effort goes out. And when was the last big, you can say, effort to get rid of certain ills within the Indian culture? It was the socio-religious reform movement of the 19th century, led by greats like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Swami Vivekananda, Aurobindo Ghosh. All those people were there involved in such activities, which actually tried to get rid of certain aspects of culture which were detrimental for progress of the society. So when we refer to the term Bharat, it essentially means culture. Now, then, so after understanding the difference between India and Bharat, now we will look into the fact that what is a nation state. We now the most popular way or the most accepted way of defining a nation is nation state. It has its origin in actually the Treaty of Westphalia, 1648, the 30 years war in Europe. The term, the idea of nation state actually took shape. Then later it progressed in Europe, and now it is accepted world over that nation state is the basis of recognition of a uh, any country. Recognition of any country is based on the idea of nation state. So what is what is this modern idea of nation state? We will look into that. So here it is composed of two terms. One is nation and one is state. So what is nation? Nation actually in literal sense, it means people. Okay, it means people, or you can say technically it means race. Technically, it means race, means people of the same origins. Okay, so actually it comes from the Latin word nasi. This is the origin word. It's a Latin word, and it actually its meaning is race. Okay, so when we say India or when we say Bharat, actually it means that it is a state for whom? For Bharatiya or Indians. Okay, so this is the idea of nation. When we refer to the term nation, we although it's a cultural connotation, but to be very specific, or academically speaking, it means people or race. It comes from the origin word nasi. Okay, so now what is the theory, or why should we understand nation in terms of nation, or why should we understand it in terms of culture? Actually, it is a very, actually there has been academic works on it. There is this famous scholar called Benedict Anderson. He actually was a left-leaning scholar, and he defined nation as imagined communities. You need not remember all these things, but just to get an idea of the fact that nation is not something concrete. It is something, it's a creation of mind. That is the basis of it. So imagined community. He termed nation as imagined community. When a group of people, they imagine themselves as a part of a single territory, then that is a nation. Now, for example, before Second World War, the Jews were a nation because the Jews, they felt that they are part of a single territory, but actually they did not have that territory until 1948, when they got the state of Israel. Okay, so till that time it was an imagined concept for them. Zionist movement or was a imagined concept for them. So that way you can say yes, there is this. It is also kind of a psychological concept. But theoretically speaking, when we say what is a nation, so the idea is that in a particular geography, a particular way of life develop. In a particular geography, a particular way of life develops, and because of geography, you get distinct races, distinct population, distinct people. Say, for example, take the example of Middle East. Say a country like Saudi Arabia. It is devoid of natural vegetation. it is devoid of precipitation or rainfall too much. So naturally, the food habit there will be more towards what? More, it will be more non-vegetarian because vegetation is not available there. So their way of life will naturally be, their food eating habits will naturally be like that. Pro non-veg. So that way you develop your fooding habits, you develop your clothings, wear long sleeves, you wear clothes covering your whole body. Why? Because of geography. Because the heat of the sun is so much, you have to cover your skin, otherwise you will suffer. So because of the geography, you created different culture, create a different way of life. Now, why all this problem happens is that we disregard geography and try to export cultures to geographies where they are not at all adaptable. Okay, so that is the reason why we have cultural conflict. If the culture is attached to geography, then it will actually not be, everybody will understand it. Actually, the culture of India is something which should be, or which is a way of life which is acceptable to all, or which people, regardless of your faith, it should be abide by all. Supreme Court has rightly said Hindu, when Supreme Court defined, how did Supreme Court define Hindu? Supreme Court defined Hindu or Hinduism as a way of life. It is a way of life that is followed by all people living in this region. The fooding habit, eating habit, you cannot have the same, you cannot consume the same way, say you are consuming in Europe or in Middle East or in Africa. Then the clothes you wear, it will definitely be different. So there is an intrinsic link between geography and the culture you develop, and because of that you stake your claim for statehood or nationhood. Okay, so that is the basic theory. Why that is why modern law also accepts whenever a cultural group expresses its willingness to form a state, then modern law looks at its culture. It looks at the fact that, okay, is the claim appropriate? Is the claim actually, can it be recognized? Then say, after independence, we did not have to go to UN for recognition because we carried on the legacy of the British, because British India territory was a nation, considered a separate nation. And that legacy we continued and it was accepted. But Pakistan had to go for staking their claim for statehood. They had to be approved in the United Nations. Okay, so their stake to statehood was what? It was religion. They felt that two nation theory, or one nation, one religion, is the idea that they ascribe the two, and they uh, stake their claim of statehood on that basis. And of course, it was accepted at that time. That's why they got the statehood. Okay, so the basic idea that I am trying to convey is that in today's world, if you want to create a nation, and then you require a particular culture. Okay. So that is the basic idea, why, basic theory behind it. And then when we are referring to the idea of state, when we are referring to the idea of state, what is the state? State is merely it refers to the territorial feature. It refers to the physical entity called India. It refers to the legal entity called India. So when we are talking about nation, since it is related to your culture, then nation will naturally be something related to what? It will be, you can say, emotional, psychological concept, emotional concept, cultural concept, whereas state is a legal concept. State is a physical concept. So when you take the term Bharat, it calls about your culture. And culture is the basis of nation's identity. We have rightly said this is the proposition that we have made, or that is actually a correct way of expressing that culture is the basis of a nation's identity. Okay. So when we are referring to Bharat, then we are referring to the cultural idea of India. When we are referring to India, then we are talking about the physical idea, the legal idea of India. The fact that India is a legal territory recognized worldwide. Okay. Territorial identity. So what connects? What connects the people of India? What connects people of different reasons? Actually, in Europe, the basis of recognition of a country is language. You have Germany for Germans, French language speaking people, although there are multiple linguistic groups, but the dominant linguistic group is what is the basis of the nation's culture, or that is the claim to statehood. But India is different. Our culture is not based on any particular language. In fact, we do not even have a national language. Hindi is our official language. Then we have languages in 8th schedule of the constitution. Those are merely, again, they are not national languages. They are official, and they can be used as official languages. They can be used to create the composite culture of India. So what is the culture of India? It was. So India's culture is called composite culture. Actually, this was a very, you can say, gray area to define India's culture. But thankfully, last year, President Murmu gave a very beautiful speech where she defined Indian culture, and that is how actually you can use it. Okay, so what did she say? India's culture is Bharatiyata. Bharatiyata. It's not Hindustan, or it is not like, say, um, any other form. She merely used the term Bharatiyata, and that is the term that actually best reflects India's diversity. She says that it inspires people to work together with spirit of Ek Bharat, Shresht Bharat. So Bharatiyata is our culture, our unity in diversity, the common thread that binds the diverse cultures of India, diverse ways of life of India is Bharatiyata. So that is how President Murmu defined it, and you can actually use it anyway, anywhere you want. So how will you define the composite culture of India? It is Bharatiyata. Let us look into the term Hindustan. Hindustan was a popular term used in India when? During the Mughal period. Hindustan was popularly used during the Mughal period, but later, after the British came, later part of the 18th century, the term India became commonly used. So, do you think, or whether the term Hindustan actually adequately represent India's national identity? Does it actually, like, do you think that Hindustan can be a good way of expressing India's national identity or India's national culture? The answer is no, it doesn't. Why? Because the term has a majoritarian connotation or majoritarian implication. It can actually allude to the fact that India is a nation for Hindus. But that is not the fact. India is a nation for all Indians. So that is why, to reflect the diversity better, to reflect the multiple cultures better, the correct or more suitable term is Bharatiya. But that's the term Pakistan or yeah, Pakistan suits Pakistan, or what you can say. Uh, what about Pakistan? Pakistan is actually correct for them because that they created in the idea of one nation, one religion. They created a nation in the idea of one nation, one religion. So one nation, one religion, if you accept that as the basis of creation of a nation, then you have to accept Pakistan. But since India did not accept the idea of one nation, one religion, so we cannot accept the term of Hindustan. Okay. So it will not actually match the cultural diversity of India. India is a subcontinental level country. It's such a big country. Everyone will not fit into the idea of Hindustan. So better is Bharatiya. Okay. So our national anthem also has this diversity. Jana Gana Mana, where we talk about Punjab, Sindh, Gujarat, Maratha. So it reflects the fact that India is a culturally diverse country. And now, if you consider the fact that Pakistan, although it was created, again, we are looking into that aspect that Pakistan, we know the basis of creation of Pakistan. It was religion, but religion proves to be few, or it proves to be very weak as a bond. Why? Creation of Bangladesh is an example. Because what the creation of Bangladesh, what did it actually elaborate, or what did it explain? It explained the fact that language is more solid than religion as a basis for a nation. So Pakistan, in that regard, can be considered as a unnatural nation. Okay. So with regard to India, when we talk about India, our the idea of India as a nation came in a freedom movement. Why? Because British challenged the idea of India. British said that India is not a nation. British said that India is a conglomerate of multiple nations. India will, if ever India be made a single nation, then it will disintegrate at the jiffy. Actually, post-independence, also many Western scholars professed doomsday for India. 60s was considered as a dangerous decade for India, actually. So it was professed by many experts, many so-called Western scholars who say that India cannot stick together as a nation because India has multiple cultures, and their understanding of nation is one culture, one nation. So one culture, one nation cannot fit. That idea cannot fit to India because India has multiple cultures. So how will India exist? But still India has existed. Actually, in our freedom movement, we challenged the British idea that India can be a nation. Recall those things you have studied in your modern India classes, like Surendra Nath Banerjee talking about India, a nation in the making. Then the strong nationalistic ideas of scholars like Bipin Chandra Pal, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, who talked about India as a motherland, Swaraj as a birthright. Okay, so that those you can say those expressions actually concretized the idea of India. Okay, so that is how we created the idea of Indian foreigners, the national idea of India. Our freedom movement became the basis, and part of it also the socio-religious reform movement of the 19th century, which is a very important part of the making of modern India. That actually created the you can say the social basis for making India as a nation. Okay, so that is what is the core idea that you can carry forward from this class. And lastly, the idea that I didn't give you the historical background of the term Bharat. That is a cultural connotation, and actually there was a clan of the king Bharata. So when we say Bharatiya, or who are Bharatiya, according to this idea, all the sons of Bharat, or we are all the sons of Bharat. Okay, so and there was this ancient clan of King Bharat, and from it we carry the lineage of. So that is the basic idea you can carry forward. So both the terms has their own interpretations. So both terms actually describes India. Both has actually uh, different contexts. Okay, so it's very much correct to call India as India as well as Bharat as Bharat, because uh, of the assumptions or theoretical aspects we have analyzed. So till we meet again, thank you.